seeks to establish the Armed Forces Service Commission to ensure that the composition, appointment of service chiefs of the Armed Forces of the Federation reflects federal character of Nigeria in the manner prescribed in Section 2173 of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
The 6 geopolitical zones can even be thrown away in establishing this commission. We must not necessarily adhere to it. It is not the main focus of the bill. The bill is to have a commission that will oversight the armed forces, just as we have in the police. The police is not being politicized. There is a police commission that oversights the police. And in any case, it does not even tamper with the powers of the president to appoint service chiefs. No, because the buck ends on the president's table. So let us not try to politicize anything that is good for the interests of the country. The buck ends on the president's table. If he has a commission that nominates people he doesn't like, the president can reject it. He has that power. So let us not make everything, let us not politicize everything.
This bill stands on very, very solid constitutional grounds. From Section 217 to 218 and 219. They impose it as a duty of this hallowed chamber to provide for the establishment of an institution to manage the armed forces. What it has done is to share the management of the armed forces between the executive and the legislature. It gives the legislature the powers to manage the affairs of the Nigerian armed forces. Running away from this is running away from our own constitutional responsibilities as enunciated by my friend, skillfully too, Senator Abaribe, and also the mover of this bill.
Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, in as much as this bill is good on the paper, it's good to create a disunity in the operation of the armed forces. As it's presently composed, the commission cannot take the function of the chief of army staff or the functions of all the chiefs, of all the service chiefs. Because if you allow this bill to materialize, the armed forces will be polarized and the professionalism will be killed. Yes. So, Mr. President, it is the function of the chief of army staff or the service chiefs that know the competence of their officers that can recommend for any position. The commission cannot know who is competent, because by the time we establish this bill, the military will be politicized and everybody, the professionalism will not be there. So I believe it is better for the mover of this bill to look at it second time and reframe it.
Short of declaring emergency in this country, in the situation what we're going through and what our armed forces are going through, this is probably the worst period after the Biafran War. This is the worst period that has overstretched the unity, the professional competence of our armed forces. And for us now, to now want to introduce this commission at this point in time is going to be very, very diversionary.
I'm against this bill for the simple reason that it will over-politicize the appointment of service chiefs in our country. It will not be good for the unity of the country, and it will not be good for the armed forces because it will affect their morale, because it may end up not recognizing the merit. And if you do that, it will bring the morale or the officers serving in the armed forces.
Under Section 219, which is the anchor for this bill, what they are seeking to do is enact a law, an act of parliament, though provided for under 219, but it will be an inferior legislation to the constitutional provisions. Because the power to appoint the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff, the Chief of Air Force, and other security agencies as may be determined by us. But at least these ones are already determined by the Constitution. That power to make the appointment is already conferred on Mr. President. And that's a constitutional provision. That's Section 218. I am saying this, that we should not end up making a law, which is an act of the National Assembly, that will derogate from the clear constitutional powers already conferred on Mr. President. But having
Mr. Enyinnaya Abaribe, and I want to make a compound motion, two motions. First, Mr. President, in order to preserve the dignity of these hallowed chambers, I wish to withdraw my Order 73. Secondly, and for us to be able to do further consultations on the bill that I have proposed, I wish also to step down the consideration of this bill until a more appropriate time. I so submit, Mr. President.